How's it going, everybody? It's Eong here, and welcome to day 42 of the Final Fantasy XV Countdown Retrospective. Before you proceed, I highly recommend you check out day 43, in which I discuss the rest of the Versus 13 news for 2009, which ended up being a rather frustratingly quiet year for the highly anticipated title. In this video, we'll be diving straight into news and information released throughout 2010. But before that, there's actually one small but important piece of news I missed from 2009 that I'd like to share. Towards the end of the year, on December 18th, 2009, Square Enix attended an event called Jump Festa 2010. And during the event, they actually put on display a brand new design for Noctis's outfit, a real-life version. Prior to this, we had only seen the baggy-looking leather attire the character was introduced with, so this was the first time we got to see what actually ended up being his final main outfit, even after the game became Final Fantasy XV. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's talk about 2010. The year kicked off as French gaming website xboxmag.net released an article on February 12, 2010 detailing an interview that they did with Square Enix's Yoshinori Kitase and Motomu Toriyama, information which was later translated into English and relayed by a number of media outlets, including website Gematsu. Apparently, the Square Enix representative said that we will have to be patient a bit longer for more information on the game, although development for Final Fantasy Versus 13 has really picked up since the completion of Final Fantasy 13, with many designers and graphics artists having gone back to Project Versus 13. Keep in mind that by now, Final Fantasy 13 had already launched on December 17, 2009, so nearly 2 months had gone by since the release of the first Fabula Nova Chrysalis title. So this latest statement was Square Enix's way of reassuring fans that the completion of 13 meant they could shift all their efforts, resources, and focus to Versus 13 in order to finish it faster, although as we know today, this wouldn't save the game from an extra 6.5 years of development. The next bit of news would come a few days after XboxMag.net's February 12th interview. On February 17, 2010, a number of media outlets published articles detailing an interview that Versus 13 director Tetsuya Nomura did with Japanese media outlet Famitsu. According to this translation by website Andrea Sang, Nomura expressed doubts about being able to show the game off at E3 2010, stating the following: "We were hoping to debut it at E3, but we're not sure now. The change in plans apparently had something to do with changes being made to the world map system." Nomura said, "For displaying characters on the world map, we were originally planning on using the method used by Final Fantasy Number, with a small Noctis running around on the screen. But that didn't work too great, so we ended up switching to the method used by Final Fantasy Number." For those wondering about the hashtags, the article stated that they are presumably meant to be Roman numerals of certain games in the main Final Fantasy series, but Famitsu had to block them out. But both Famitsu and Nomura agreed that the change was a major one. Another reason for a potential no-show, according to the article, has to do with possible overlaps with other titles Nomura's working on, with Nomura saying that he's currently consulting with other Square Enix producers. When pressed about the progress report of his other projects, he said there are a number of them, along with some for which we need to begin preparations for a reveal. So that was it for Nomura's February 17th interview, and then a month later, on March 18th, 2010, Square Enix did some type of Twitter-based interview in which Tetsuya Nomura answered some fan questions and provided an update on the status of the games he was working on at the time. The interview was in Japanese, but the information was later translated by website Andrea Sang. One of the questions asked how far along is Versus, and Nomura's response was, "Not everything is connected together, so the various areas have different levels of progress. However, you can fly across the world map in an airship." As far as Versus 13 information goes, that's all we got from the article. So let's move on to 2 months later after this March 18th Twitter interview. This takes us all the way to May 18th, 2010. On this date, Square Enix hosted an investors meeting for the company, which was attended by CEO Yoichi Wada. Information from the event was relayed by various Japanese outlets, so again, all of the information was in Japanese, but website Andrea Sang once again provided an English translation of the relevant bits. According to the article, when asked about the possibility of Versus 13 going multi-platform, Yoichi Wada replied with, "We'll be looking into it internally until right before the formal announcement." Prior to this, Square Enix was adamant that Versus 13 would be a PS3 exclusive, but in light of the fact that Final Fantasy XIII went multi-platform halfway through its development cycle, some wondered if the same could happen to Versus 13, and this statement by Yoichi Wada was the first sign that the company was at least considering it. It goes without saying that Xbox 360 users were ecstatic about the prospect, so news of Yoichi Wada's statement spread like wildfire across the internet. Wada caught wind of this very soon, and on the same date, on May 18, 2010, he tweeted a message clarifying what he meant during the investors' meeting. The tweet was in Japanese, but the text was translated into English by website Andreasang, and according to their article, here's what the tweet said. It looks like the net is heating up. Versus on Xbox, what I said at the earnings press conference was just that until a formal announcement is made at the announcement time, all points about all titles are not finalized. Yeah, I don't really know if that helped his case. If anything, he seemed to be further reaffirming that the possibility of Versus 13 coming to Xbox 360 was still on the table. Otherwise, he would have just given a straight-up definitive answer like Tetsuya Nomura did a while ago that the game would be exclusive to PlayStation 3. But it looks like in light of 13's commercial success on the Xbox 360, they were beginning to reconsider Versus 13's exclusivity. Regardless, we know today that the project did indeed end up going multi-platform after all, now releasing as Final Fantasy XV for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Alright, I think this is a good place to stop, so with that, I'll be concluding today's episode of the Final Fantasy XV Countdown Retrospective. Thank you for tuning in. Only halfway through 2010, and there are already signs of development trouble and uncertainty, from the overhauling of the world map system to doubts on Versus 13's PS3 exclusivity. Keep in mind that at this point in time, the expectation was that the game would be coming out in 2012 at the latest. Little did we know that we would be waiting for another 6 years. Anyway, let us know in the comments below any memories this information might have sparked from way back then. And to be further updated on all things Final Fantasy, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out!